motion before you speak. So, and Councillor Stintz, when your point to personal privilege, I will deal with it after lunch, okay? And Councillor Perks to speak, and that will be the last speaker.
Before lunch?
Yes, before lunch.
Speaker, I have a motion that City Council refer MM 41.25 to the Integrity Commissioner and request that she undertake an investigation of the violations of the Code of Conduct by Mayor Rob Ford and report back to the April 1 and 2, 2014 meeting of City Council with any recommendations for appropriate penalties or sanctions. Members, I'm heartbroken. We all are. All over the City of Toronto, people are stopping at work to watch new revelations on television, to watch new things, to read about new things in the media. We're broken. If this were a member of one of our families or a friend, we would drop everything and rush to offer assistance and guidance. It would be the first thing we would do. But we're in a very different circumstance here. We're dealing with the duly elected mayor of this council, and we're dealing with him as elected officials. We have a very different duty than we would if it were a member of a family. Our duties are constrained. We cannot vote the mayor out of office. To do so, and more importantly, we should not vote the mayor out of office. To do so would to start to choose which votes count. Whether you voted for someone that the rest of council wants to vote out, or whether you voted for someone who perhaps didn't have a problem. It should never be the responsibility of an elected body to choose whether or not one of their members holds office. That's what elections are for. We also are constrained that we can't get involved in any of the criminal allegations or potential criminal charges. Again, we shouldn't. It is absolutely wrong for a government to get involved in the criminal justice process. That literally leads to a police state. So we find ourselves being forced to deal with a question with very few options in front of us. We find ourselves profoundly constrained, yet urgently needing action for dealing with problems that are absolutely unacceptable. Dealing with a mayor who has been asked by people from every corner of this city to resign and who refuses steadfastly to do it. Yet we have to do something. We've dealt with these kinds of ethical breaches before, and the one thing that we have learned is when we deal with them, we need the best advice, we need to understand the legal framework, and we need to come up with measures that can actually be enforced. If the Integrity Commissioner recommends a penalty, the member is required to live by that penalty. And if they refuse to do so, then we have a serious tool to wield. It is important that we maintain the symbols of the City of Toronto, but what is more important is that we confirm for all Torontonians that the mechanisms of government work. It is important that we restore respect for this council, respect for the electoral process, and respect for our ability to deal with this matter seriously. Not deal with it based on an entirely well-meaning motion that's hastily scribbled in the middle of a crisis. No, we need to have the professionals advise us what is the applicable law, what are the appropriate penalties, and what are the ways we enforce those penalties. We had a report from the Integrity Commissioner in her annual report just last June. In that, she talked about a Supreme Court case about the different roles that municipal councillors take. It had to do with St. Boniface, and it was heard by Mr. Justice Sapinka. In that, he says that we have to be very conscious of when we're performing which role. And the Integrity Commissioner reinforced that advice and said, in those times when we are adjudicating the behavior of another member of council, we must be at our most serious, we must be at our most unbiased, and we must have the facts and the legal arguments in front of us. There's one last thing I wanted to say. Over the last 2 weeks, I have had conversations with virtually every member of this council. And I feel better for that. I have seen people who have been at conflict rise, sit together, and reason about how we solve this very, very difficult problem. As much as I am ashamed of the mayor's behavior, I am proud of the conduct of this council. It's a pleasure to serve with you. I know we'll do the right thing.
Thank you, Councillor Perks.